Hive Protocol. Episode 2. The Signal Inside. The cold was thinking. Vexx realized that before he fully woke. It moved through his bloodstream with a rhythm that was not biological. Every pulse of his heart carried it farther, into capillaries, into nerves, into the electrical lattice of his brain. Cold, but organized. Cold with intention. He lay still in the dark of the sleeping room. Beside him, Skyza's breathing was steady. She was pretending to sleep. He knew because her middle eye was closed. She never slept with it closed when she was worried. He said nothing. The whisper inside his skull stirred again. Not language, not yet, but something like curiosity. He sat up slowly. The room temperature read 21.3 degrees. His breath fogged. That was impossible. The cold was not in the room, it was in him. He placed one hand against the wall. The polymer surface frosted instantly beneath his palm. A thin lattice of crystalline ice spreading outward like a blooming fractal, each branch precise, each angle exact. He had not done that intentionally. Inside his chest, the cold presence shifted, and for the first time it noticed him noticing. The sensation was subtle, a ripple across thought, the way two radio signals sometimes overlap in static. Vexx closed his eyes. Inside the darkness behind them, he felt something probing gently along his neural pathways. Not attacking, exploring, like an animal waking up inside a cave it did not know. The cold presence found a memory. Mira's laughter. It recoiled instantly. Too warm, too complex. Then it found another. The lab, chemistry, precise reactions, numbers, temperature held at 3 decimal places. This one it settled into like something returning home. The whisper deepened, not words, a concept. One word arriving not as sound but as pure meaning. Efficiency. Vexx opened his eyes and said very quietly that he understood, that it was learning, that they both were. Skyza was already at the common area terminal when he came out. She had made 2 cups of tea. She always made 2 cups. 14 years of that. The particular language of a partnership that had stopped needing words for the ordinary things. Today was not an ordinary thing. Her middle infrared eye was open. It was always open when she was working through a problem. She had been working through this one for days. She told him Mira had left early for her study group. He said he knew. She said Mira had not told her. The silence that followed had a specific texture. Then Skyza said she had seen the news service. Subsector 4. His transit logs did not match the routes he had described. The compliance office had been closed during the hours he had logged there. There was a supply requisition filed under his credentials that someone had tried to erase, tried badly, leaving traces for anyone who knew where to look, and Skyza knew where to look. He told her he needed her not to look. She asked him how long. 8 cycles, he said, without treatment. She asked the cost. 400,000. Coverage. 12. She turned back to the terminal. He watched her add the numbers. She had already run this calculation. She had run it days ago and arrived at the same answer and sat with it the same way he had, turning it over, looking for the error that was not there. Then she said his name, and she said the word spines. He went still. She told him she had seen what he had done to himself, alone, in the hygiene chamber, while she was in the other room. She understood what it meant. That he had cut the chain so that whatever came next could only reach him. Not her. Not Mira. Not the lineage. She said he should have told her he was going to do that. He said that if he had told her, she would have stopped him. She was quiet for a long moment. Then she said yes. She would have. She moved to the viewport. The light outside shifted from amber to pale gold as the station's rotation carried their quarter into indirect sun. She asked what he had put in his body. He told her he had not put it there. It had come with the neurospice, and it was changing. She looked at the frost forming in delicate fractals around his feet, at the cold vapor drifting from the sealed wounds on his skull. She did not look frightened. She looked very tired, the way a person looks when they have been carrying the weight of a thing they already know. She asked how many Hive he had put down that night. 2, he said. She asked if they would send more. He said yes. She said she would not look, for now, but she told him to come home, every night, whatever else he became, to come home. he said every night. 2 levels above the residential ring, the Hive collective command chamber glowed amber. The insectoid enforcer commander watched the tactical display. 2 biosignatures had gone dark in subsector 4. Illegal synthesis radiation, neurospice. The radiation pattern suggested advanced molecular stabilization, modified catalytic synthesis, temperature profiling far outside standard parameters. Purity estimate, 95% minimum, possibly higher. The commander's mandibles clicked. Only a handful of chemists in the sector could produce a radiation signature like that. Most of them worked for the Hive. One did not. The analyst gave a name. Vexx, Senior Compliance Inspector, 22 years of service. No violations, no anomalies. Every facility he had audited in the sector had been running below optimal yield for 9 consecutive years. Below optimal by exactly the margin that would require someone with his knowledge to correct. The commander was still for a long moment. Then the commander said it slowly, as if testing the shape of it. He had not been hiding. He had been watching. The Hive processed this together. One organism, many minds, a single realization arriving everywhere at once. The commander ordered collectors deployed. 6 units, neural extraction, alive or recovered. Either would serve the purpose. Kryo was halfway through recalibrating the mobile lab when the lights flickered. Radiation scanners chirped. Hive drones, already, too fast. She looked at the sealed container on the lab bench. 3 kilograms, 98.3% purity. A fortune, or a death sentence. Her comm unit buzzed with a single message from Vexx. 1 line, leave the lab, now. She looked at the scanners, approaching signatures, fast. She grabbed the container and ran. Back in the apartment, Vexx stood in front of the hygiene chamber mirror. The sealed wounds where his ridged spines had been removed pulsed faintly, cold vapor curling from them in thin threads. The presence inside him stirred. Then it did something new. It showed him an image. Not a memory, not his. A structure. Impossible geometry made of crystalline filaments. A lattice spreading through stars like a neural network. Ancient and vast and connected across distances that had no name. The Hive. But older, much older. Before the insectoid commanders and the amber command chambers and the collectors deployed in the dark. Before any of them had names. Vexx staggered against the mirror and asked what it was. The whisper formed its first word, not in sound, in meaning, direct, undeniable. Node. He understood immediately. Something ancient had been dormant inside Neurospice's molecular architecture. Something that wanted to connect. Hive minds. Neural systems. Collective intelligence spanning the stars. But something had gone wrong. The Hive believed they controlled Neurospice. They did not. They were one part of a network they had never fully mapped. One node among many, in a web far older than their own founding. And Vexx, through the specific accident of his chemistry meeting their chemistry at 98.3% precision, had become something the network had not produced in a very long time. The whisper formed another concept. 2 words, delivered with the certainty of mathematics. Central node. Skyza appeared in the doorway. She watched the frost forming around his feet. She watched him and said he had been talking to himself. He told her about the presence, that it was curious about everything, that when it had reached toward her, he had stepped between them without thinking. He told her he was still learning what it responded to, still learning what he had become. She asked if it was dangerous to Mira. He said no, it had recoiled from Mira, from warmth, from complexity. She asked about herself. He paused. Then he said he did not know yet, that he was between her and it. She said that was the most frightening thing he had ever said to her. Then she told him to stay there, between them, whatever else he became, to stay between them. Outside the residential ring, 6 Hive collector drones dropped from the station's outer hull. Black shapes sliding through the docking corridors with the efficiency of things that had done this before, and expected it to end the same way it always ended. Each drone carried a neural extraction unit. Alive or dead did not matter. The Hive needed the chemist's brain. They had his name, his residential address, 6 extraction units, and the weight of organizational certainty. They did not have any model for what they were walking toward. Kryo reached Vexx over comm, breathless and running, telling him 6 drones were moving toward his residential block, telling him he needed to leave the station. He said no. She said he did not understand how the Hive operated. He said he understood exactly how they operated. He had been auditing the facilities they ran for 9 years. He told her to get somewhere safe, and that he would find her after. She asked after what. He closed the comm. Skyza asked how long they had. 8 minutes, he said, maybe 9. Mira was at her study group and would stay there until he messaged her. Skyza set her jaw. 14 years of reading the data of him. His hands, his posture, the specific geography of his silences. She read all of it now. Then she asked him what he needed. He turned to face the door. His eyes reflected pale blue light, cold and vast and patient. The whisper pulsed through him. Cold intelligence spreading, calculating, adapting. The presence that had recoiled from warmth and settled into the geometry of his chemistry had spent all night learning what he was. Now it was learning what he could do. He said quietly that they were not hunting him. He said they were hunting what he had become. The drones reached the residential block. The corridor ahead of them fogged. Not a malfunction, not a system failure. The temperature in a 10-meter radius had dropped 17 degrees in under 4 seconds. The corridor walls were crystallizing, thin fractal patterns spreading from a single point, precise as chemistry, patient as cold. Vexx stood at the far end. The lead drone raised its extraction unit and told him he would come with them. The extraction unit frosted, then seized. The molecular components that required a specific temperature range to function were now 17 degrees below it. He had not moved his hands. He had not moved at all. Inside his chest, the cold presence bloomed, and the whisper, no longer searching for language, no longer forming single concepts, delivered its first complete sentence directly into the core of him. Not as sound, as absolute meaning, impossible to mishear. The hive is broken, we will rebuild it, through you. 22 years. 22 years of forms and stamps and approvals. 22 years of being exactly as small as they expected. He opened his personal terminal, found his file of observations, navigated to the entry he had left unfinished, and typed one final line. Tonight, for the first time, I answered. In the Hive command center, the analyst reported that all 6 collectors were offline. No extraction, no retrieval, no damage to the target. A localized temperature event, controlled, targeted, precise to a molecular level, had shut them down without contact, without a weapon. The commander said slowly that he was not a chemist. The analyst agreed. The commander asked what he was. The analyst hesitated. This was rare. Then the analyst said that the old network designation, the one from before the collective's founding records, was central node. That the last confirmed central node activation had been 11,000 cycles ago. That whatever the original network had been trying to build, it was trying again, and it had chosen a compliance inspector. The commander was still for a long time. Then the commander said not to send collectors, to send a diplomat. In the apartment, Mira's ceremonial decorations turned slowly in the recycled air. Woven fiber patterns in Quarathi ceremonial colors, hung with perfect tension and exactly correct spacing by a 7-year-old who did not yet know she was her father's child in every way that mattered. Vexx stood in the doorframe and looked at them. Behind his eyes, the cold was patient and present and awake. And it was no longer whispering. End of episode 2.